So the example can be, for example, anything where you may have had an experience, or else something that you've read in the chapters or in the literature that I assigned to you, or any of the other literature that you may have done some research on or read as well. So that's what I mean by illustrations. Give me an example of what your point is to emphasize that. Ashley, does that help you?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. Any other questions?
Sorry, may I also ask, you said the quiz is going to cover the slides up to that point as well as all the reading from the textbook?
Yes,
Okay.
yes. Any other questions? These are great questions. Also, just adding a little more clarification as far as um, whether or not, in regards to when we start the quiz or any of the exams that I give you guys, we do start all together. If, for example, you try to start the quiz early or the exam early, other than, starting it with the rest of us, it's locked and you won't be able to get to it. I have to unlock it. So, again, we start the quiz and all exams early. If for any reason, your internet logs you out or kicks you out, you have to make sure that you log back in so that way I can monitor you. And monitoring you means that I need to be able to see you on screen. So any quiz or exam, your cameras must be working. And I need to be able to see you so I can monitor you. Um, refer back to the syllabus in regards to quizzes and exams because there are deductions if I can't see you. Please troubleshoot your camera before the quiz or before the exam. Don't wait until the day of, because again, all that's going to happen is that if I can't see you and your camera's not working, you're just going to end up with a 0 for that quiz or for the exam. So troubleshoot it before you come to class that day. So just word for the wise. Again, any quiz and any exam is a closed book. So again, this is my way of taking the class temperature to see if, you understand and also have kept up with the reading materials. So again, any quiz or exam is a closed book, meaning no notes, either paper, digital, electronic, anything, any form of notes or text or whatever is not permitted. And again, thank you for that question. Really appreciate it. And you guys really have great questions. And I'm glad you're bringing it up because again, I sometimes forget to remind you, and these questions are in the minds of your peers. So it's good that you're asking.
Teacher, can I also ask something?
Of course, please.
In the announcement, it said that we have to read like chapter 2, 3, 4, and 5. Like, do we have to read all of that?
There are certain pages that I want you to read in those chapters. So if you look on the all assignments schedule that is in the modules on Canvas, it gives you certain pages for the chapter. So for example, in chapter 3, I only want you to read pages 62 to 76. Now, For those of you that have a digital form of the textbook, those pages are not going to coincide. So that's why in the assignments schedule, I put on there, you stop reading at the end of the chapter, okay? Or in chapter 4, I've assigned you pages 78 to 95. And if you have the digital, then stop reading where it has the subtitle challenges, faculty shortages, and Q&S and education. Okay, so again, just as a reminder, if you have the digital form of the textbook, these pages that I've listed in the class material and the all assignments material schedule is not going to coincide. So that's why I added on there where it says stop, I added the subheading of the section where you do not have to continue reading.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And that's also true for the case studies, all right? So for the case studies, that's why, again, if you have a digital form of the textbook, make sure that you search for the correct case study, and that's why I've added the specific title in the assignment. I've had a student that answered another case study because he had the digital form and he used the page number that I gave on the all assignments page and thought that was a correct one on his digital text. So he ended up answering the wrong scenario. So please don't do that. Okay, great questions, you guys. All right. So let me jump into our PowerPoint, and I'm going to be sharing. Okay. Please tell me if you can see my screen.
Yes.
Great. And you should see history and social context, right?
Yes.
Okay, fabulous. Put it in slideshow here. Okay. So again, this presentation has a lot of material in it. Okay. And when there is PowerPoint that has a lot of material in it, I usually say, if I really want you to focus in on it, gee, wouldn't this be interesting to have in a test or a quiz, or make sure you need to know this? Or I give you a little bit of a clue that, you know, this is important stuff that I want you to focus on in this presentation, okay? All right, so we're going to talk about the historical aspect of nursing. And we're going to go over a lot of the historical nursing leaders that made nursing the way it is. But we want to, again, start out with the definitions of nursing. And we talked about that in our last time we met. But I just wanted to make sure that you knew that Florence Nightingale really is the reason why we're here. And she is the founder of nursing, and she also is significant in the fact that she wrote a lot. Well, I shouldn't say a lot, but she did write a book called The Notes on Nursing, What It Is and What It's Not, and it was published in the 1800s. Interestingly enough, the concepts that she wrote in this book is still true today. Okay, she was the first person that defined what nursing is. And so based on her definition, there were other nursing leaders in the early 20th century and also in the nursing organizations that really took the essence of her definition and modeled it when they created their own definitions as well. And a lot of the organizations that I'm going to be mentioning is the American Nursing Association or the International Council of Nurses. So these organizations are really vital in the nursing profession as well. But the main emphasis of what all these definitions consist of is that for the most part, nursing promotes the health of individuals. They prevent disease, they restore health, they alleviate suffering, and also they are advocates for those in need, meaning your patients or your patients' families. A lot of times, when I ask students, what in your how can you define nursing? If I were to ask you how to define nursing, the majority of the students say, oh, well, nursing is patient advocates, okay? But they do more than that. They wear many, many hats that we will see as we progress in this course. Not only are they advocates of nursing, but of nursing and also of their patients, but also they do all these things that you see here, and how they do that is all the different hats that they wear because of the fact that, these are the expectations that the public expects you to perform and to be able to act on their behalf as well. This is just, again, how nursing was developed. And if you go back before Florence Nightingale, the idea of what nursing is and what nurses do really stemmed from the not society, but the civilization in ancient Greece and also in Rome, where they had a system of really taking care of their sick family members or their sick friends as well. Because of the fact that nursing really is a very, very old and honored profession, it also stemmed back from a lot of the religious orders that really did have or played a major impact of nursing and what nursing is today. An example of that are the Knight Templars, which were often labeled as the first professional nursing. However, it's interesting to know that the men were the only ones that were considered as professional nurses within the Knight Templars organization or group, right? And sort of kind of evolved that it wasn't they went away from men being nurses, but then they veered towards only women being nurses. The interesting fact about the nursing being a religious uh, historical background is because that throughout the centuries, there were religious orders such as the nuns and the Jesuit priests and all those similar type of religions that really cared for patients that were ill. If you are in the area where you live, you may have a hospital that really did develop from um, a religious organization, such as O'Connor Hospital. O'Connor Hospital was originally developed and ran by nuns. Okay, and then it was, I forget what the name of O'Connor Hospital was originally, but they changed their name from a religious sect to just O'Connor Hospital. They were ran by the Daughters of Charity. If you live around the Santa Cruz area, there's Dominican Hospital. So that was also based on that was run by nuns as well. So, you know, there is a lot of connection between hospitals and religious affiliations. So we're going to talk a little bit about all these individuals, and they are the historical nurses. What I would like you to do is I would like you to Google one of these individuals, and I'm going to give you 2 minutes. It says 5, but I'm going to give you 2 minutes to kind of Google it. And I'm going to just kind of ask you, maybe call out a few of you to give us one or two things that you found interesting about the historical nurse that you Googled. Okay, so I'm going to start my clock now and just go ahead and Google one of these. You one more minute and then we'll start sharing. Okay. So who wants to share? Just give me one or 2 points which you found interesting in the individual that you Googled.
I'll go first. Um, I looked up Clarissa.
Yes?
I looked up Clarissa Harlow Barton, and she was inducted into the Woman Hall of Fame, and also funded the American Red Cross.
Oh, and who was this again that you Googled?
Oh, sorry. This was Clarissa Harlow Barton.
Oh, Clara Barton?
Yes.
Yeah, she was great. Thank you so much. And anyone else that wants to share?
Yeah, I would
Can I
like.
share?
Oh, okay.
Go ahead.
So I researched Isabel Hampton Robb, and I found out that she wrote 3 different books on nursing, which was the Nursing, Its Principles and Practices, Nursing Ethics, and Educational Standards for Nurses. And she was also the first president of the ANA in 1897.
Wow, first president of the American Nursing Association. That's fantastic. Can you imagine what a force she is? Oh my gosh. Thank you. Thank you, Laura. Anyone else that wants to do this?
I searched Lillian D. Wall helped to bring healthcare to the residents of New York Lower East Side and the tour of the 20th century as a practical idealist who worked to create a more just society while fund for public healthcare, women's rights, and children's rights while running the Henry Street settlement.
Thank you. Thank you. And one more person who wants to volunteer? These are great. Anybody else that wants to just volunteer? Don't be shy.
Yeah, I will do it.
Thank you.
I searched the Nightingale, and just like you mentioned, she was the founder of the nursing, and then she actually reduced the death rate by improved hygiene and living standards. This remind me that nursing is not only happening in the hospital. I think it should be a lifestyle. And also, she lived 90 years old around like in that time. I think she take took care of herself very well. I think the nursing should be a lifestyle. It's not only happening in the hospital.
Yeah. Thank you for that. You bring up a really good point. I mean, in her time,
Yeah.
to live up to 90 years old is pretty amazing.
Yes.
Because people died when they were in their 50s or even 40s, right?
Yes.
So again, she took her knowledge, especially about cutting infection or she talked about personal hygiene. She used that
Yes.
in her own life. And I think, and also the idea of, the diet or the exercise, whatever else that she learned during her research, and she applied it in her personal life. And I think that's one of the reasons why she really lived to be 90 years old.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah,
That's
thank you. Thank you. Okay, so let me just add a little more interesting things about these individuals. And again, they truly are leaders. If you can describe all these individuals, and I just want you to put it in chat, okay? Just give me one word, one or two words that you think is speaks out of all the individuals or these people that you Googled or you've researched or you've read about. Give me one or two things about their personality that stands out the most, and you can put it in chat. Okay. So one or two words. And as you do that, I'm going to share with you a little bit more about these individuals. Okay, so Florence Nightingale, believe it or not, was born in a family of very wealthy parents. They did not want their daughter, to really go into nursing. They felt that it was beneath their social class for someone to go into an area to like the hospitals or wherever the people were at that time that were sick were kept, to go in and to take care of these people. What they wanted their daughter to do was they wanted their daughter to marry someone rich. They wanted her to have a family and to, embrace the high society of which she was born into. But she had a religious calling, and she really felt that she needed to go into nursing. So because of that, she had gone to the Crimean War, and she helped a lot of the soldiers that were there. She really observed what the conditions of what was going on in the Crimean War and the conditions that the soldiers were in. And she felt that the conditions needed to be better. And so she was able to, again, with her contacts, with her connections, because of her family's wealth, that she was able to make some changes for the soldiers in the Crimean War. She took all this information that she learned while she was there, and she founded the first school of nursing, which was called the St. Thomas Hospital in London. And she also wrote a short little book called The Notes on Nursing, and I have one of the republished copies of that book. It was interesting. I happened to be in Barnes and Noble, and they have the bargain section. I went there, and there it was, Notes on Nursing. And so I grabbed it and read through it. It's very short. And a lot of the ideas that she wrote in the Notes of Nursing is still true today. She was the first statistician. She was the first nursing researcher, and she was also the first data analyst. So she was the first of everything, really. And because of her, nursing exists today. One of the interesting things that are attached to her is that when she was in the Crimean War and she was caring for these soldiers, of course, they didn't have electricity, right? So what she did was she took a gas lamp and she went from soldier to soldier taking care of them. And because of that, she has the moniker Florence Nightingale, Lady with a Lamp. Okay, so that is how she came about with getting her moniker, is that she went from soldier to soldier carrying a gas lamp in her hand, going over and looking at their wounds, talking to them, so that way she was able to see where she was going and what she was doing as well. Again, as I said here, she is the first nursing researcher. She collected a lot of data. And also because of this data, she was able to reform some of the British healthcare system at her time. Mary Seacole was also an amazing woman. Now, this was a woman of color. And so in those days, if you look at that, it's 1800s, right? In Britain, she was also considered a very savvy businesswoman. She had the knowledge of herbal medicine, and it could have been that it was passed down to her within her family. She was also an expert on the disease of cholera and helped manage the soldiers. Yeah. So when you think about Florence Nightingale and the Crimean War, and now I'm telling you that Mary Seacole also went to Crimea, you would automatically assume that these two women worked together, right? Unfortunately, these women did not work together. In fact, when Mary Seacole asked to go to the Crimean War to help the soldiers, she was however, she went anyway. Interestingly, when I did a lot of research with her, um, can you guys hear me still? Yes?
It's a little bit cut out.
Okay, thank you. I just want you to know that I just read a pop-up that says my internet is a little bit unstable. So if you stop hearing my voice, please let me know right away, okay? And I may be, because of my internet being unstable, I may be bumped off, but I will log back in again. So stay with me, even if you have trouble hearing me and if I get bumped off the internet, okay? So anyways, Mary Seacole did go to the Crimea, and what she did was that she put together like a rooming house for those soldiers that wanted a little bit of break from the front line. And she created an area or a place where the soldiers can go and they can sleep on a comfortable bed, and they were given better food than what they received in the front line. So she was an amazing, amazing woman of her time, and also because in those times, women of color, aside from the fact that she was a woman, were really looked down upon as well. Mary Elizabeth Mahoney was the first Black professional student nurse, and pushed through it
You cut out.
in program. If you look at this today and you equate if whether or not this program that Mary Elizabeth Mahoney went to was an RN or an LVN program, I would have to say that it was probably an LVN program that Mary Elizabeth Mahoney went into. But in those days, if you go into a nursing program, you were just considered a nurse. There was no separation between an LVN versus an RN. You were just considered a nurse. Anyways, because of her accomplishments, she was the opening speaker at the first conference of the National Association of Colored Graduate Nurses. And they established also a Mary Mahoney Award in recognition for outstanding nurses of all races and of all colors. So it did not limit the race of the individual to receive this award. Clara Barton. Clara Barton, we all associate Clara Barton with the American Red Cross. She was asked by President Abraham Lincoln to help him respond to all the inquiries made by the families of the soldiers during the Civil War, when the families were asking where their loved one is and what the status of the condition of their loved ones. And so he was receiving a lot of this request. And so he went to Clara Barton and he said, you know, please help me try to organize these requests. So she really helped open the Office of Missing Soldiers in Washington, which for some of you know that this is called the MIA office, right? This was huge during the Vietnam War, but it started during the Civil War, interestingly enough. She was also very, very instrumental in providing a lot of supplies during the war in regards to food or clothing or bandages. Again, as I said, she was also the founder of American Red Cross, but interestingly enough, this was not an original idea. The American Red Cross was adopted from a program in Switzerland. And when Clara Barton went to Switzerland, she saw this program that they had there as truly important and a program that was needed in the United States as well. So she took this idea and she went and she developed it in the United States. And instead of using the blue and the white colors of Switzerland, she used the red color. That's why it's called the American Red Cross. Okay. But it wasn't her original idea. She adopted it from the Swiss. Lillian Wald, I've always said Lillian Wald was my favorite nursing leader at the time. She was also born from a family of wealth. And when I talk to you about all these historical leaders, and of course, all these are women, I have to think back about what the environment was like for women in the days where these nurses really took nursing to another level. And women were not able to vote in those days. Women were really had no rights. So it's amazing what these women did. And Lillian Wald is one of those individuals. She was a champion of the urban poor. She was a social reformer, and what she did was that she developed or opened up the first clinic called the Henry Street Settlement in the middle of New York on the East Side, where the majority of the poor immigrant families live. And so she did that because she knew that these individuals did not have access to health care. So she opened up this Henry Street settlement that took care of the immigrant families that could not afford health care. She took care of the children, women, men, anybody that walked through her door that could not afford health care. She developed the first national health insurance plan for the Metropolitan Life Insurance Company. And again, as I said, I want you to think back during the time that these women lived, and especially Lillian Wald, when she developed the first national healthcare insurance, she had to talk to businessmen. And a woman talking to a businessman and proposing a healthcare insurance was un was unthinkable, right? Was unthinkable. But she had the determination, she had the courage, and she had the intelligence to know that this was important. So she went to those men. And she used the right terminology in order to catch their interest, right? And I can imagine Leon Wald saying to these businessmen, because businessmen, their bottom line is profit, is dollars. So I can imagine her saying to them, if your workers are sick, they will not be able to come and produce for you the products that you want them to build or the services that you want them to give in order for you to make money. So you need to find a way to keep them healthy. And I have a proposal, right? So she spoke in their language. She spoke dollars. She spoke profit. Because when you don't have anybody working in your factory because they're sick, you're not going to get the productivity and you're not going to get the dollars that you need in order to keep your business alive and to keep you wealthy. So because of her connections, because of her intelligence, because she knew how to speak to these businessmen, she was able to influence the development of the national health insurance. She also advocated for the improvement of healthcare for the African American, and she co-founded the NAACP. She was also an advocate for better working conditions for women, and she co-founded the Women Trade Union League. And I think the work that she's done really encompassed not only the immigrant families, but also, people of color, also women. She advocated for women. These are the reasons why I find this woman so extraordinary that I love talking about her and all the amazing work that she did. Lavinia Dock was also a social worker, and in fact, she did work with Lillian Wald at the Henry Street Settlement, but she also offered the first nursing medication textbook, and also she was also an advocate for women's right as well. So very, very strong woman. I remember when I first went to nursing school, and when we give medications, we need to know exactly what their indications are, the contraindications and all that. And so we always carried around nursing textbooks. But nowadays, right, everything being electronic, nurses now can go on the computer and just type in the medication, and it'll pop up all the information that you need regarding this medication before you administer any type of medication to your patient. Because again, you have to have the knowledge of what you're giving and why you're giving it. But Lavinia Dodd was the first author for the nursing medication textbook. This also, ladies, is a very important figure, Margaret Sanger. She was one of 11 children of parents that were Irish immigrants, and she saw firsthand the trauma of birth that her mother experienced with all her children. She worked as a nurse in the Lower East Side of New York, and she was an advocate of birth control. She advocated for safe contraception and family planning in the United States. And I can tell you, based on research, that she was not widely, sorry, can't talk this morning, widely accepted in society because of her ideas of birth control. In those days, family numbers were huge. It was not unusual to have 8 children, 10 children. I mean, she came from a family of 11. And in those days, right, children were important, especially if you lived out in the farm, because they were the ones to help the parents work on the farm. Plus, there was no birth control in those days. Um, she was jailed several times by authorities because of the fact that she went out there and she advocated for the ability of for women to decide the number of children that they should have. She was looked down upon. She was considered practically crazy by society, and she was labeled as crazy. In fact, she was also admitted in an asylum because of her ideas, right? It just did not coincide with the ideas of society in those days. She was threatened. She was really uh, almost, yeah, she was threatened and she was physically harmed many times because of her ideas. She ended up going to Europe for her own personal safety, and she still advocated in Europe for birth control. And she ended up going back to the United States after living a couple of years in Europe, and she still advocated for birth control at those times also. Because of her, she really is the reason why there is Planned Parenthood for today, because she opened up the first birth control in the US. And she advocated for, again, she helped evolve the Planned Parenthood of America as well. Okay, any questions regarding any of those nursing leaders? Nope. Okay. So let's jump into a little bit about the nursing licensure history. Okay. During the times of Florence Nightingale and Lillian Wald and Margaret Sanger, there was little about nursing license. Nursing licensure began in New Zealand, believe it or not, followed by the Canada, and then also in the UK, and finally in the US. Ellen Dougherty was the first registered nurse, right? The International Council of Nurses decided that each country needed to provide licensure for their nurses. Why do you think they did that? what is a primary reason why nurses have to be licensed and have to take a nursing license exam before they can practice? And you can put it in chat. One word, give me one word why there is a need for licensure. Competency, safety, skill level, standardization, safety, caring, safety. Okay. Standardization. Okay. You're all correct. If anything, if I had to choose, it would be to ensure the safety of those individuals, of your patients that you're taking care of. Okay. The idea of nurses being licensed was slow being picked up. You can see the years here where in 1903 nurses did not have to be registered to practice. It's called the permissive licensure exams. Okay, but because of that, they could not use the term, the RN behind their name unless they were registered. 1923, all states were required permissive license, and that wasn't even a permissive license. Really is not the licensure that we use today. Okay, it was very weak. And it was not until 1947 where New York finally said, okay, our nurses that work in New York have to have a license. And 3 years later, the National League of Nursing was developed the first nationwide state board of nursing test for licensure. So you can see it was a slow growth that nurses had to be licensed. Okay. We had talked about in our last meeting a lot about the social image of nursing, and I will not go into it today because I think we talked a lot about the media depictions of what nurses were and all those things. So I won't go through it this time. We had also talked about the factors influencing nursing development. We talked about gender. We talked about men having a slow growth in nursing and that we need more nurses in the field of in the profession. And again, the image of nursing was poorly depicted, not only in TV and media, because of the fact that when you saw a nurse on TV or in the movies, they were always wearing a white uniform, they were always wearing a cap. And nurses nowadays, we don't wear the white uniforms. We don't wear the nursing caps. It's kind of hard to practice with a nursing cap on your head, right? So it was depicted very, very poorly as well. But what we did talk about also, and again, this is very brief because we talked about it at length. We talked about the technology that's influencing nursing now, such as a biomedical technology. And the biomedical technology are those things that are used to really improve the patient's longevity and life and quality of life. And examples of biomedical technology are things like cardiac pacemakers that can be implanted in in patients to keep their heart in regular rhythm. Biomedical technology, another example, are artificial implants that are placed in either hips or knees, or broken bones, such as, the screws and plates. That is an example of biomedical technology. We know about the computer technology already. A lot of the nursing documentation, a lot of the lab work data, x-rays, all those things are easily accessible to us because the fact of the technology that has been developed by these numerous medical companies that have allowed us to be able to document our nursing care through electronic medical record, the ability to pull up lab information because the computers, just numbers of things that we have access to because of the computers. And then again, artificial intelligence, which is fairly new, which is still being explored, even though it's already in healthcare. It is, again, artificial ramifications. What are the things that we need to make sure that we put guardrails on in regards to artificial intelligence, right? How can it benefit not only nursing, but also medicine itself? And then we talked a little bit about nursing shortage. And again, I won't go into that because we talked a lot about that as well. Okay. I hope that you were able to go into some of the links that I gave you in the last PowerPoint, just to kind of get an idea what kind of information you can get from there. And again, I think it gives you a better idea of what nursing is and how many of these companies really advocate and also provide generous scholarships and opportunities for nurses coming into the profession. So please, if you haven't had a chance, go through those links that I provided you. That is in the first PowerPoint that we had discussed last time we met. I'm going to stop there. Any questions at all? Okay. Let me jump into professionalism and education in nursing. Okay. And again, if you have any questions, please just kind of jump in and ask, okay? Or else type it in chat and I'll stop and read it. Okay. So, how many, let's see, let me ask this question. Okay. Many of you, if not all of you, have jobs, right? And so when you applied for this job, was of whether or not you had any formal training in this job. So sometimes a lot of the companies will train you on the job, right? And so, for example, is if you work at Starbucks or Pete's, then you want to be a barista, they'll train you with that. If you work at Trader Joe's, and you may not have to have previous experience in grocery retail. If you work at Macy's or any of those department stores, Marshalls, TJ Maxx, any of that, you don't need to have, previous experience, but they'll train you on the job. Okay. These kinds of jobs where this is called OJT, on the job training, is considered an occupation. And it's very different from a job that is considered a profession, because those jobs require formal education in a college or a university. All right. There's also differences, as you can see here in this list, that compares occupation versus profession. The difference in any type of the values and beliefs or commitment to that job. Some of the jobs that you may have, and again, I'm just making a general statement here, But most of the jobs, such as the ones that I listed, barista, working in retail or whatever, there isn't that strong commitment, or you don't identify personally as, being a barista or being a checker or whatever. But in a profession where there is formal education and formal training, there is that greater commitment and personal identification in that profession that you have gone to school for. So you've heard a lot of times where people base their identity on the job that they do. This is usually connected to those individuals with a profession, and I'm saying usually, okay? So usually, people say, "Oh, I'm a nurse," or they identify as nurses or as lawyers or accountants or whatever else they do. All right. One of the other strong element in the fact that aside from the different education or the formal education that is needed in a profession, there is greater accountability that is given to you as that person being a nurse, accountant, a lawyer, a physician. Okay, you are accountable for your actions. There is that greater degree of accountability. There are different characteristics of a profession, and I'll go through those characteristics that I'd like you to be able to kind of understand and to know why there is this huge difference. So first of all, a profession is that is considered vital to the population, to humanity, and also they focus on the welfare of society as well. Nursing does that. Nursing does that, right? We focus on the patient. We provide care for our patients. And but also uh, um, our patients. Certain body of knowledge in a profession, and that is, again, having to have that formal education of going to the nursing program or going to medical school or taking classes or courses at the university or college level that is specific for that profession. And again, as I said, because of that uh, added knowledge and responsibility, you are also given a strong sense of accountability. So for whatever you do in your profession, you are accountable for the results or the actions that you take within that profession. Okay. The ANA, the American Nursing Association, defines accountability as this in regards to nursing. Accountability is firmly rooted in the ethical principles of fidelity, loyalty, veracity, beneficence, and respect for the dignity, worth, and self-determination of patients. Now, as you can see, some of the ethical principles that the ANA has embedded in their definition of accountability, we will also talk about in our future lectures as well, because ethics uh, expected from you by the people that you take care of and also their families and friends, that you behave in a very strong and ethical, have strong and ethical behaviors. And that's one of the reasons why nursing is a very trusted profession. As I said, that that nursing is, or a profession is, institution of higher learning. Um, 1909, the University of Minnesota created their own Bachelor's of Science and Nursing program. However, it was attached to the School of Medicine. Why that is important is because the School of Medicine was the one that decided what type of classes these nursing students should have. Okay. They were the ones that said, oh, this is a number of clinical hours. This is a number, that type of classes they should have. This is a School of Medicine, you know, and it wasn't until 1923 when the Yale University opened up its first School of Nursing that was separate from the School of Medicine, which I think is very, very important. Okay. In 1965, the American Nursing Association paper wrote that all nursing education should take place in institutions of higher education. What does this mean? That means that the American Nursing Association said in 1965 that nurses that want to practice the profession of nursing needs to have a college degree with a 4-year program. Okay. Now, I want to open this up for discussion. Do you agree or disagree with the American Nursing Association's position paper? Because this is something that is still being in discussion today. So my question to you is, do you agree or disagree with the ANA position paper? Any thoughts on that? Okay, Vivian said yes. Okay. Fernando, I'd love to hear what your thoughts are.
Um, I I could see why. Like at first, when I thought about it, I was like, yes, and then after like just thinking about it a little bit more, I'm kind of on the fence of saying no, just because I was in the military and our medics were didn't have a college degree, but I watched them um, do some pretty, amazing stuff,
Mhm.
without a college degree. And so it's kind of like doctors, yes, of course, right? I mean, you gotta have some sort of education to be able to like know if you're gonna be inside of me, I want you to have something, but if you're gonna save my life,
Yeah.
like the medics, they've done. There was one scenario where I did need serious medical help, and I gave it no thought. I had my full faith and trust on this man,
Uh-huh.
and he did a great job. I mean, he's one of the reasons why I'm still here, but and none of our army medics at that level have had any sort of college degree. I mean, they had certifications, of course, but no college degree. So for that reason, and just for those experiences and the 7 years that I was in the military and everything that I've seen, it was I'm leaning no for
Okay.
nurse.
Yeah, and thank you for that. I'm gonna play the devil's advocate here. Okay, can I do that? Um, you said that you expect the physicians to have that knowledge base and expect them to have that greater the degree and all that. Why not expect it of nurses? Why why don't we expect that from our nurses as well? Is there a lower expectation of nurses?
No, no, and that's the part. Like, so for me, it was just I'm thinking like, okay, so like if I have, and that makes sense because nurses, you're gonna be, like we would be handling. I mean, like infections and all that stuff. So I mean, you do need some sort of education for sure. But for like a broken bone or for like something like that, it's kind of I would imagine it's um like I'm trying to trying to figure out how to gather my thoughts here. Like
No,
it's
that's
that's a good point though. That's a very good point. Like I do. I'm not saying I disagree with you. Like I'm. It's just hard for me just with like those people, like the medics or even corpsmen in the Marine Corps. They don't. They just go through a series of certifications and they end up they see us like right up. Say we're sick or something. You know, it doesn't need to be something like drastic or
yeah,
crazy.
yeah,
Uh, they'll evaluate us. They'll tell us, okay, this is what this looks like, and then they'll send us to higher forms of care if we have some sort of a infection or whatever,
yeah.
but as far as like, a wound, like an open wound or stuff like that, I feel like you could be taught that without um a higher education. I'm just trying to
Yeah,
like say it
yeah.
without like stepping on anybody's toes or any of that. I don't mean to be like disrespectful or anything I agree, like, to be a better nurse you do need education 110%.
Uh-huh.
But it's just to treat like major wounds like that and to kind of give them the extra help to get the extra level of care. Um, uh, yeah, that's where I'm
Oh,
kind of.
and I appreciate what you're saying, and I respect that. I'm sorry I kind of put you on the spot, right? But I really do respect that. And my question really, the purpose was to let's think about this, right? I mean, I love what you said when you said, our physicians need to have greater knowledge. If we're going to be partners with our physicians, this is my thinking, and push back, people, if you don't agree with me. If we're going to be in the partners, be partners and with our physicians, and we're not going to take the role of being submissive, or not submissive, but you know what I mean. Um, then I think we need to partner with them in their knowledge too. Okay. Um, I think this is just my own personal thing, is that I think that we need to get away from being the quote unquote handmaidens of the surgeon and the physician, but partner with them in caring for this patient. So I'm going to read some of the comments to you guys, if you haven't read them already. Um, Alfred says, yes, I would agree, but I heard that nurses learn a lot on the job that they don't learn in class, so maybe focus on clinical instead of classes. So, so yes, but can you say that it's true at any profession that some of the things that you have to learn in class, that you learn through experience as well? That's why a lot of times, those nurses or those professions that have been doing it for so long, their knowledge is based on a lot of the experience they've had in their profession, but not necessarily through anything that maybe they've learned in class. I don't know. Um, Let me see what else. Okay. So let me see what else people have said. Um, My thought, and again, and this is why I love this class, because it gives me the opportunity to share my thoughts with you, and I love hearing the things that you guys have to say too, and giving you a broader sense of really what nursing is about. And so I think we should start thinking about how we can be more independent, let's say, of having to just take orders from physicians. Being able to, how can we get to a point where if a physician orders something and we just don't roll, we look at it and we can, based on our education and our experience, know whether or not that this is the right avenue or the right order, or that the physician didn't make a mistake, those kind of things. So this is where a profession would be more independent. would have more autonomy, right? You have more autonomy towards your practice, that you're not just going to rotely follow those physicians' orders, that you have the knowledge and the understanding of how the disease factor works, or the knowledge of medications based on your research, based on your experience, that if you disagree with the physician's orders, you can intelligently and professionally discuss this with the physician. And this is where I'm saying, let's be in line with the physician instead of just blatantly following his orders. Let's get away from being their quote unquote handmaidens. And that's a tough challenge, because nursing historically has been where nursing follows everything that the physician has to say. It wasn't that long ago when a physician walked into the nursing quarter or nursing station and we had to stand and offer them our chair. And now it's like, why would I offer you my chair? I worked as hard as you. In fact, I've been on my feet longer than you have probably. And so I'm going to continue sitting. So anyways, just showing my thoughts. Sometimes I get away. Anyways, and the mistake of a profession is that it is there's a lot of associations that are significant in professions, and one of them for nursing is American Nursing Association, the International Council of Nurses, and then there are also many organizations of different specialties that you can reach out to as well, and that is associated with nursing. Okay, different barriers to professionalism in nursing. A lot of it is the number one thing that is a good test question would be, what is the difference in I guess not difference, but why would nursing not be considered a profession related to all the other professions? And one of the things, the most important thing, is that nursing has different levels of education to get into nursing. Okay. And this is what the American Nursing Association position paper says, is that in order for you to become a nurse, they're proposing the nurse comes from a baccalaureate 4-year degree program. To remove the question of whether or not nursing is a profession, because if you are an LVN and only have 18 months of nursing program, you're considered a nurse. If you're an ADN, you're considered a nurse. If you have a 4-year, you're considered a nurse when you graduate those. Again, this is nursing from other types of professions in any profession. Okay. If you want to become a physician, of course, there's years and years of education. If you want to become an accountant, it's 4 years. If you want to become a lawyer, it's 4 or 5 years or 6 years. You know, if you want to become a librarian, it's 4 years. I don't know what other profession that it requires 4 years of education. It's 4 years, but nursing is the only one where it has 18 months, 2 years, or 4 years. And so that's why this in itself separates nursing from other professions of nursing being considered a profession, even though it is. There's different barriers to nursing profession, and we talked about the gender issue. There's a lot of historical influences, not only religious, but also the fact that, you know, a lot of military historical influences as well. There's external and internal conflicts. external conflicts, tension between medicine and nursing. Okay, tension between advanced practice nurses and physicians. And a good example for that is the advanced practice nurse, certified registered nurse anesthetist, because they in itself do work that is very closely also performed and practiced by anesthesiologists, MD physicians. Okay, so there is that tension between medicine and nursing. And also, there's internal conflicts within the profession itself. And again, the question is, one of the conflicts could be, why are we keeping nursing at various levels of education? Why can't we have nursing at a level where there is greater acceptance as far as education? And that in itself is a reason why the profession of nursing is really advocating their nurses to continue their education, their nurses that are LVNs to pursue their RN, their nurses that ADN pursue their BSN and higher, and also their nurses with a master's pursue higher degree of education. Profession. These are the educational pathways: diploma nursing, ADN, BSN. Okay, I'm going to go back here a little bit. Okay. Can you guys still hear me? Yes?
Yes.
Okay, great. Because that pop-up came up again. Again,
You're cutting out again.
I am cutting out. Is this better?
Yes, now.
Oh, okay. I am so sorry. I don't know what's going on with my internet. Okay, good. Thank you. And yeah, really appreciate any feedback if I'm cutting out, so that way I can tailor this a little better. Okay, so diploma nursing is very rare nowadays. There is diploma nursing programs, it's usually back east or the Midwest or whatever. And then, of course, your 2-year ADN or ASN programs, your BSN, and then your master's in nursing. Now, I do want to say in master's in nursing that there is master's in nursing where it's a general master's, and then there is another level of master's in nursing, which is a master's in nursing with an advanced nursing practice. And then there's DNP and PhD. Okay. Now, if I were to take a magic marker or a marker and say, okay, where would I draw the line between technical nursing and professional nursing? Where do you think I would draw my line with my magic marker? Between what two degrees?
I think ADN and BSN.
Okay, and that's where I would draw it. The ADN and diploma nurses are considered technical nurses. And again, it's because a lot of the education is focused on the clinical aspects of skill. Okay. You will find that ADN nurses
You're cutting
has
out.
more of a, I'm cutting out again.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, there it is. You're good.
Am I good?
You're
This
good.
is really frustrating. Okay. You'll find that the ADN nurse has greater comfort level with their nursing skills. their clinical skills than you have of a BSN. Because a BSN nurse is their educational format is more towards theory, it's more towards leadership. Okay, that's where your BSN nurse goes, education is. And the public health nursing is also part of the BSN curriculum, because when you graduate with a BSN, you can apply to the Board of Nursing for your public health nursing certification. You cannot do that with an ADN program, okay? So again, that's where that line would be, is between the technical versus the professional nursing. Then you have your DNP, your doctorate, and then your PhD, which is at the top. Okay. Here are again different types of nursing education, which I have already discussed with you. I'll go through that. I'm afraid I'm going to get cut out here. This is the accreditation that usually happens at all nursing programs. There is the ACEN, which is Accreditation Commission for Education and Nursing, and that accredits all types of nursing schools from diploma all the way to PhD. Whereas the Commission on Collegiate Nursing Education accredits BSN programs and higher. All right. So I can tell you that De Anza College probably has an ACEN certificate accreditation, because of the fact that this organization accredits all types of nursing schools, whereas San Jose State, Hayward State, East Bay, all those would have the CCEN accreditation. These articulated programs allows you to move up. And what this is that if you were to have taken classes at other universities, then some programs will accept those classes, and they transfer the credit that you earned at a previous university or previous college to their program as well. So again, as I said, the nursing profession is saying that they want their nurses to have a higher degree of education. So there are a lot of hospitals, in fact, the majority of the hospitals really are encouraging their nurses, their ADN nurses, their even their bachelor's nurses to get a higher degree. That is because the fact that, again, we want to have that greater emphasis of nursing profession. There has been studies that have shown, and this is good to know, there's studies that have shown that the patient outcome is better from the BSN nurse versus the ADN nurse, right? And you may think, wow, this is crazy. Why would it be different? And so what I can say is that the BSN nurse may have has the education to a greater level. Let's say has a broader understanding of the disease factor or broader understanding of patient care based on their research literatures that they are required to take or to read in their BSN programs, that can contribute to that study saying that BSN patient outcomes are better with a BSN nurse graduate. Okay. Also, there are more opportunities and professionally for those nurses with a BSN degree as well. if you want to go into administration or education, anything where where it requires oversight of programs, then that job may require a BSN degree at the least. Also, there are organizations, hospital organizations, where depending on how depending on what their structure is as far as wages are concerned, they may pay a little better with a BSN degree, depending on that organization's pay structure. So a lot of reasons for education. Please go to the California Board of Registered Nursing to really get an understanding of what the requirements are of nursing to get your license. Also, there is a list of nursing programs, universities that offer different types of programs. The requirements, as you know, that if you apply for your nursing program, you have to get fingerprints. And the reason for that is because, again, we want to make sure that our patients, sorry about that. We want to make sure that our patients are safe and that hospitals do a background check on you to see if there's anything lurking in the background that you may have done when you were a kid and it's, in your record or whatever. But just know that there will be a point before you start practicing where you will have your fingerprints taken. This is a little more about the diploma nursing program, and I won't go into that. This is the associate degree program. The reason why the LVN program and the associate degree program is in existence today is because of the nursing shortage and the fact that in order to increase the number of nurses that were needed, that the ADN program and the LVN program came into existence today. However, again, the associate degree program has been very, very significant, where there is a lot of associate degree programs. But the point of the ADN program, again, is that it is a stepping stone to your BSN degree. Then we have your baccalaureate degree. And again, I said 1909 was University of Minnesota. Opened up their first BSN program, and it wasn't until 1919, which is 10 years later, that there were only 7 BSN programs. The BSN program was not accepted initially because of the fact that it was felt that nurses needed to be trained at the hospital, and there was no need for theoretical or scientific learning. But it wasn't until the Brown Report, where they recommended nursing education to be at a university that was also in line with the 1965 ANA paper, that there was an increased growth in the BSN program. And I think this continues today, where it's based on data. It seems like the BSN program is also in line with the popularity and also the increase of types of education that the nurses are coming out with is very, very similar, and also at the same numbers. I won't go into that. If you are thinking of going into a master's program at some point, there's 2 things to know. Number 1 is there's 2 types of masters of science and nursing. Number 1 is the general nursing, which that focuses on administration, leadership, education, informatics, and care coordination. There's different other types of nursing focus under the general program, but again, it is going from your bachelor's to your master's, and a master's is 2 years of additional study. Now, let me go here. If you look at the advanced practice registered nurse, that is also currently a master's degree program. However, it is more than 2 years, depending on the type of specialty that you're going to go into. Okay, the initials that you see there, the certified nurse midwife, nurse practitioner, certified nurse specialist, and certified registered nurse anesthetist are currently the only 4 advanced practice registered nurse accepted. There are, again, depending on the type of advanced APRN you want to be, will determine not only the cost, but also the extended hours that you will be asked to perform or practice in the program. Okay, and so these are it, as I said. So they are nurse practitioner again, clinical nurse specialist, certified nurse midwife, and the certified registered nurse anesthetist. Nurse practitioners work very closely with the physicians, of course, and they can work in doctor's offices, they can work in hospitals, they can work in clinics. They're they work hand in hand with the physician, but you can usually see them in the clinics and doctor's offices. Nurse midwives usually they can work in the clinics. The majority of the time they work in the hospital. Nurse midwives can only do vaginal births. They can only care for those patients that will have just regular vaginal births. They are not trained to do cesarean sections. The only the MD physician with a specialty in OBGYN can only do cesarean sections. Nurse midwives cannot because they are not physicians. They are not trained to make incisions and perform surgery, because that is what a C-section is. Okay, they can only do vaginal births. Certified nurse midwives, currently the nurse certified registered nurse anesthetist, I think I said midwives, but I meant anesthetist. There are, in 2015, there are 48,000 certified. There are, I think, probably double that now. They work with physician anesthesiologists in clinics. They work with them in hospitals, in the operating room. They give, again, these nurses are usually have backgrounds in ICU, CCU, because they have honed their assessment skills and also their knowledge in cardiac drugs. They put patients under general anesthesia for surgery. They give pain blocks. They do epidurals for pregnant moms going through labor. They can do many, many things that the anesthesiologist can do. And this is where you can find the conflict, because of the fact that their skills and practice are so closely aligned with the physician counterpart that it becomes challenging for physicians, because they don't understand fully the scope of practice of CRNAs. And then we have the clinical nurse specialist, who is either a master's or a doctoral degree. They can work in research, they can work in education administration. There's so many things that the clinical nurse specialists can do because of their specialty. Okay, so I think I will end it from there. Please make sure for those slides that we didn't go over, I go through it, review it. So this is any questions, first of all, any questions? Oh, okay. What is the salary difference between an AD and BSN? Again, the salary difference depends on many things. Number one is your number of years of experience, your specialty, whether or not the hospital or the clinic that you work in provides extra percent more for wages if you're a BSN. So it just depends. For some hospitals, it may not be this, it may be the same, but I suspect that there is a little bit of a difference where the BSN may be getting paid a little more money. But again, it depends on many, many things. Okay. Any other questions? Okay. So remember that the next time we meet, your case study should have been submitted to me by 3 o'clock on the 28th. Please don't wait till that date to submit it. We're also going to have a quiz at the end of the day when we meet next time. Now, for attendance for today, okay, I'm going to pose a question to you. And I'm going to call out the first letter of your last name. And those are the people that I want to, first of all, enter your response in chat. So I'm going to pose a question. I'm going to say A through B, and then put your answer in chat. And then I'm going to say C through D, and then post your question in chat. Okay, it'll be easier for me to kind of go through the attendance as well. So here is the question. Okay. What are the 3 advanced practice registered nursing role? Put it in chat. And for those students with the last name from A through G, put your answer in chat. What are the 3 advanced practice registered nursing roles? Okay, so A through G, put your answer in chat. And this is for credit for today. Oh, only 2 answers? Once you put your answer in chat, after I call your last name initial, you are free to go. But if I don't see your answers here when I go through attendance, then you won't get credit. So make sure that you answer this, okay? This is how I'll take attendance every time. Okay, for if your last name starts H through M, put your answer in chat. What are the 3 advanced practice registered nurses roles? Okay, H through M. Right. Okay.
Wait,
Your
I'm
last name,
still working.
if your last name starts from N through R, please put your answer in chat. N through R, put your answer in chat. And like I said, you're free to go when you answer this, N through R. Okay. Okay, S through Z. Please put your answer in chat. S through Z.